Greetings and welcome, everyone. It's All You Can Geek Gamecast, episode 630. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Guest, joined by Mike Sneedy,
What's up?
Corey Feinsod,
Ahoy.
and Tony Korkanakis.
Hey.
Welcome, guys. Welcome, listeners and viewers, to 630 of the Gamecast. It's a special one, folks. It's the of the year.
Super.
We had our movies last week. This is the Gamecast version of it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of new viewers, and I just want to go over the rules for those that don't know it. I have to hide Craigbot here as my own rule. Sorry, everybody. There we go. Now you guys can't see him. Okay. So, yes, the rules are we do our top three, and it's not the best games of the year, folks. This is the games that we played that we enjoyed the most. This is our best. We don't get to play everything, so don't expect that. But we also have one of our most disappointing and one of our surprise. So we're gonna go through our list each. I don't have the document open, folks. If you guys want to add we can add to the document after the episode. But I'm trying to keep a running list of this, but not as important. But yeah, so I think we should get right into this because it's that kind of an episode. We're gonna kick it off. Let's kick it off with our most disappointing because we like to kick it off with the worst at first. Because I'm talking, I'll kick us off. I'll get us rolling on this band. My most disappointing game this year was Stray. Because yeah, I mean, guys, this was on the of the
Game
year
of the
list.
years
Yeah,
everywhere.
it was on the of the year lists, and I don't see. I'm a cat person. I have 4 cats in this house, and I played an hour and a half, 2 hours of it. I'm just like, I can't. I just know. I'm not into this, and it's, I didn't get into it at all. I thought it was just kind of like, it was kind of boring. It was boring. It reminded me of, the world of Nier, but as a cat, and there was no action though. It was just puzzle-based solvers. There's a couple sequences that you have to get through that you could, I guess, die on. But overall, I was just disappointed in it because I heard such great things. Like everybody loved it, and it was on year of the year lists, and it didn't get me. I don't know.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
hype got you, and it got you in the wrong way.
And for me, I was excited because I have a 10-year-old who also loves cats, and I was like, she's gonna be blown away when I saw this was on Steam Deck. I'm like, I'm getting this game. I'm gonna surprise her with this game. And she probably sat with me for an hour of that too. I probably played it for 2.5 hours actually. She probably played it for an hour with me, and she was like, "I'm bored of this game," so she just she left. So I don't know. I just felt like that was of the other option. I just honorable mention. I didn't list it as this, but Potionomics for me was a little disappointing because I didn't play through it because of the curve. It was the curve. The stressful management of that game, but Stray still took it because
I heard they patched it since
I'm wondering.
Since you said it. So.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I was doing this list. I was like, let me go check these notes because I was wondering if they were going to fix that a little bit and give me. I'd love to take another crack at it where I'm not feeling like, oh, I gotta do this. I just couldn't enjoy the game, and I'm like, I can't play a game like that. That's not the point of me playing games right now. I enjoy enjoying the game and not feeling stressed. It's supposed to be a de-stress thing, so but that's it for me for that one. Let's go with Mike. What was your most disappointing?
Well, first I'm going to preface this has been an unprecedented year for me. I have played, if we count some stuff like Overwatch 2, which I don't know, I've played 17 new releases this year.
17.
Nice.
Wow.
It's awesome.
17. So you might have to indulge me with some honorable mentions here or there, but disappointment based on what I expected and what I got, or what I hoped, my level of anticipation and what it was. It's going to have to be Mario Strikers. What's it called? Battle League?
Yeah.
And
that's mine as well, one of them. So.
Oh, thanks. I mean, not nice.
Just,
it delivered and failed, right? It delivered and then failed.
Well, the Strikers series, I've been waiting a while for it to come back. The GameCube and Wii versions were real fun. They were chaotic, and and this game, it acted like it came out at the same time as those, and not that it's had a decade and a half to be better. And also, in some ways, it's just worse. There's just less to it. The characters are less varied. And the field is completely just for aesthetics. It has no gameplay function. They introduced this gear system, but the way it works with this like constant balance of points you need to have, it's almost pointless to even engage in it, and it all looks stupid. So
it was more content, or like you didn't even like the game? They said it wasn't QOL. Was QOL went backwards? Quality of life went backwards.
No, so like here's the thing. I mean, the core gameplay loop is fine.
Because I thought it was fun when we played it.
It was fun. It's just once you play it for like an hour, that's it.
There's not enough.
Like,
there's not enough.
Done
to
everything.
It. Gotcha.
You're right. You've done everything. Yeah. Like the gear system like is there, but it doesn't meaningfully change it. It's like just a little stat wise. It's like. I mean, I haven't dug deep into it, but from the feel of it, it's just like it kind of just does whatever. So it's like you have these characters with base stats. Like Bowser, obviously more powerful, less speedy, but it's like, would you want to play Bowser and then put a piece of equipment on that makes him slightly faster, but then less powerful? Like it just seems weird. Yeah. The tuning and stuff like that. Like, and then the characters. I mean, I like the fact that you can have all these unique characters at once. But at least at launch, it did not have the character. Like I think it launched with 10. So like every game, you had to have at least
every
3.
character.
So it's like so 60% of the roster is taken up every match unless you want duplicates, which is just kind of.
I think the other thing too is this followed up like Mario Golf, which was super amazing.
And the thing is, they knew on both of those, like, hey, like I like that they update titles, for the next year or so with extra DLC, free maps, that kind of stuff. But when it doesn't, when first of all, they should have at least launched with like 12 to 14 characters. So when you launch with like anemic characters, anemic stages, which again, like Mike said, doesn't matter, doesn't impact the gameplay, which is just boggles my mind.
I don't understand due to that why it's half and half as well. You can split the stage based on like whatever you want, but it's meaningless.
Right, and I would have really appreciated it if that was actually part of the strategy. Like maybe you wanted like heavy people for like having an ice arena because heavy people, like the heavier characters, might not slip and slide as much as like a speedy character or something. I mean, again, I'm not a game developer or anything, but like just in my mind, like off the top of my head,
and
based
off of prior experience in other games,
it's like cool. This is the fire level. Okay, well, how does it change the gameplay? Oh, it doesn't. It's like. Well, then what are we doing here? Why does it matter? Like, it's cool cosmetic, I guess.
Cool.
But like, if you're going to do that, then offer a shit ton, not like 6 or 8 or whatever it was. So, again, the gameplay was fine. It's just, everything else was just lacking. Yeah. Everything else.
And I actually think the sort of captain and minion system might have even been better because the captains were like, the main characters where they were the only ones who could do the super strikes or whatever, where you would get extra points or goals for your attempt there, but then the minions, when you fully charged a shot, they had very specific abilities that you could either use to like disable the goalie or take out people. The Hammer Brothers, I remember, were a minion that they would throw hammers and just like take out everyone in front of them. You get a lot of cheap goals with them, actually, similarly to what you would be able to do with the Super Strike. But just everyone is on the same playing field now, and they all have their one singular, unskippable cinematic. When they do a super strike, it just feels less, and compared to a game that's 15 years old. So
gotcha.
It's unfortunate. And my honorable mention for disappointment is Pentiment. I went in thinking it would be a Disco Elysium.
Another game of the year kind of game. Yeah.
I went in thinking it'd be Disco Elysium.
Yeah.
But it was really more just. I mean, it was fine, and it was emotionally affecting. It made me think about things that I kind of don't want to think about as a newish father. I'll say that much. But and so it was definitely like something you think about, but there's just not enough sort of variables or meaningful interaction in the game. I just went through it and I'm like, all right, that's done.
Got it.
Wasn't quite what I thought it would be given the hype surrounding it.
It's on my list to play. I just didn't get to it. So, all right, Corey.
Well, my disappointed is myself. I'm the opposite of Mike here.
This is fair.
Not play as
not 17, not 17 new releases this year.
No,
as per the rules, I'll allow this.
But for a game I did play, I guess.
Yeah.
And I only played it like very briefly. I will go with Multiverses. I think they could have done something cool there, but it was just
honorable disappointment.
It was just like trying to be Smash Bros, but also trying to be something different, and just didn't really do much. And they had some really like you have cool characters that you could do stuff with, but it just didn't come together.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they didn't. They tried to not steal from Smash Brothers, but at some point, the reason why it's so successful is because of the systems that it has, and you kind of have to kind of borrow. You have to take a little bit from there to keep the interest. To keep the interest, yeah.
Exactly.
For me, the reason why I think it was rough is just because it was free to play, and in the end, you're going to run into that wall where
it just didn't feel like it was enough.
Not enough new things that you can do in the game. There's very limited number of stages and characters, really, for the whole full almost 6 months or something.
Yeah,
and you
that
just
hurts
run out of incentive to play the game.
But I think overall,
I thought it was interesting and fresh early on.
Sure,
a fresh take on that formula, but you just run out of.
You don't feel like overall, just in terms of like combat depth. Tony just there he goes. Combat depth. It was just lacking in that aspect, in my opinion. That was the problem.
Everything about it, and like when you squeeze in a battle pass system style thing, it just always screws stuff up.
Yeah. All right.
Force feed us this garbage.
And the only reason why Gotham Knights isn't my disappointment is because it's about as bad as I expected it to be. So,
Got you.
Gotta throw it in there.
Gotcha.
Yep. All right,
Tony. Did you have?
It was Mario Strikers. I guess if I had to say another one, it's going to be Vampire Survivors.
Really?
And I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm not saying it's a bad game at all. It's just the amount of hype that this got, and I can see it. I can absolutely see why other people like it. It's just for me, it didn't scratch the itch I was looking for. Like, it's very easy to play, obviously. Like, you just move around. It's just automatic. But, like, after a couple times, and I still put a couple hours into it, but it's just, like, it's almost so disengaged from, like, a gameplay perspective where I'm just, like, I like, kind of sigh and go, okay, I'm going to be bored for the first 5 or 6 or 7 minutes. Bored completely out of my mind because the early game is just like, okay, you walk around in a loop, you collect the crystals, you just click on the upgrades of the build that you want. And at first it's really fun because you're like, oh, well, what does this weapon do and stuff like that. But once you kind of get a feel for like what works and like, what's good, the game stops. It just does not reward you for being experimental. Doesn't reward you for like,
I guess. I mean, I guess I was gonna say it wasn't like. I guess that wasn't like. Wow, I'm drawing a blank to the game. Getting a sequel next year. The roguelike that I played that was awesome with the death guy. Hades. Thank you. Jesus Christ.
No, because Hades like had those. Each of those weapons was. Super
that's where I. Yeah, that's where I. When I was gonna make the statement, I stopped myself.
I
wouldn't
compare these two things at all. Like
no,
this game is taking a gameplay mechanic, then dumbing it down, and then dumbing it down even further.
Gotcha.
Because it's auto. It's like auto chess.
Gotcha.
You're not doing anything.
I heard that actually. So
you're just moving you're just essentially moving a dot. It's not even like a character. It's just a dot. And I get it. I enjoy it's a good time waster. I think it's fun and stuff, and it gets cool when there's so much stuff on screen. Yeah. But at the same time, I can understand it being because how hyped it got.
Yeah, and that's again, it's not bad. It's just. Compared to other games like, and I'm sorry, I'll let you speak, but like compared to other games where it's like a roguelike where it's like, hey, you collect some things and you power up like Hades, or any of these other games, Slay the Spire is my perfect example. I love that game, and there's so much depth and there's so much like knowledge required to like be like, oh man, how do I like get through this level, this build, the options I have, right?
Equip yourself for it, yeah.
Right, and again, I'm not saying it's a bad game or anything like that. It's just. When I heard about
it, it's what it is. It's just dumbing it down, like I said. It's like taking those games and just
absolutely. But you can't beat the price. It's like $5.
It launched at like $2 or something.
On Game Pass.
And it's free on Game Pass. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I just think that got a bunch of hype because all your favorite streamers and YouTubers and game journalists, and guess what? Those streamers and YouTubers are also today's game journalists. But they have to play everything so much, and when everything is so involved, I feel like they'll be like, yeah, this is so stupid. Like, Brain Dead is just a great time waster. So they all raved about this because it was just a great change of pace for them
to like
have to play
with their chat
everything.
and not worry about the game at all. Like,
so
exactly.
I think a lot of it was just when you have to deal with like these like 120-hour epics all the time, and you have to play them. This thing where it's just like you can just sort of relax and see things pop. And I swear to God, if I hear another one of these people talk about lizard brain, because they all do when they talk about this game, how it feeds into their lizard brain. I'm gonna break their lizard necks because it's just so frequent.
Wow. All right then.
But and I just think this is one of those things where reviewers basically get it from a different angle than consumers, and that's why they're like, yes, this is great. This because it's a change of pace from what they have to deal with normally.
Yeah.
And that's probably what Stray did for them too.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay. Surprises. My surprise, I don't have to talk about very long because I'm going to talk about it much later in the show. I cheaped out, and because it needs to be here. Elden Ring needs to be my surprise of the year. It has to be because who would have thought? It does. No, it absolutely does, Corey. How would you argue this? How would you argue this? Because in January of last year, would you have said I would have played Elden Ring?
I don't know. Probably not.
And I'm done. And I'm done. That's it for
I
now.
think so because you kept talking about how you were interested in playing these types of games forever, but you were worried about the difficulty. Now you have the most popular one ever, where you can sort of
most accessible one, yeah.
Sort of bypass the traditional difficulty. Even though you also claim you don't like open worlds, but you secretly do.
We go over that every year, but I again, like I was so surprised how long I stuck with that game, considering the curve and even the first boss. Any other year, I feel like I would have just walked away from that game. I don't know what it was, because I mean that Margit. It
was a perfect storm.
Margit was just insanely.
I think it helped that it launched early in the year.
Yeah,
and there wasn't really much else out, so you're like okay, because like I think if this came out in November, Jim, I think you would have given up.
Yeah,
or like just moved on to something else and just forgot about it.
And absolutely. So. But my surprise. Mike, what was your surprise?
My surprise was Sifu.
Nice.
This was earlier in the year, actually.
Yeah, it was.
An indie game, but I went in and played it, and I was very surprised by how engaging it was. Because at first it was just a wall, and I was very angry at it. But this game, and in some ways, I think this sort of hurt my opinion of Elden Ring a little bit going in. Because this game is sort of like pure, you get good. There's very little different mechanics you can do other than shortcuts eventually. So just like pure mechanics, like this was a hard game that you eventually feel like you're super proficient in as you play it more and more. And it's a very unique game where you're supposed to, play stuff over and over and learn the levels and figure out how to get through taking it least damage possible or not dying, basically, is what you want to do. And it's just stylish too. It feels cool, and I beat it, and also did the extra ending run through. I have not done the thing where you don't ever die. It seems almost impossible to me, but something to aspire to. But I've stopped playing it, and you can't go back unless you have to train yourself again. Because it's all you. It's again, you're not like leveled up or anything. There are some unlocks that make things a little easier, but generally it's just you. So this came out at nowhere. I didn't really even know about it too much beforehand, but I really was impressed with it, and it surprised me. My other surprise, little runner-up, would be NBA 2K23, just because those games have been so stale for so long, but this one had that eras mode where I told you, where you can start for different eras and go from like 91 or 2001 or modern day or 80s. And it's just so complete, and it really hooked me in a way that that series hasn't in a while. So that was a surprise. So just avoid all the other game modes with all the shitty microtransactions all over the place.
Oh, that's what it was. I couldn't remember you talking about that until you just said microtransactions. I'm like, oh, that's right. Now I remember it.
Yeah. Don't play my team.
Yeah.
No.
All right, Corey, what was yours?
Cheating a little bit here because my surprise is the Steam Deck.
Nice.
I think that
deserves it.
This is like something that should not work, and yet it's
what do you
too
mean
big.
Should not work? What do you
mean, say it's like it's too big and bulky.
Yep.
We all made fun of the design. It looked terrible, and yet when it came out, it was amazing, and it is amazing. It's still amazing, and like it feels good in the hands. Like first thing you do when you hold it, it's like this like feels good, and everything position wise is great. And then the touch pads are in perfect spots for things.
Yep.
And then it has back paddles on it that are amazing.
Okay.
So not necessarily a game, but everything that it's doing and everything that it has here is for a portable handheld system, playing PC game like AAA games. You can get like they you can play Elden Ring on this. That was like their big push in the beginning. It's like you can play Elden Ring on this device, and you do it portably. So that was my surprise.
I mean, I don't disagree with you on that. It could have been mine if I wanted to cheat, but no, I'm just kidding. That's a great choice. Another thing I didn't think I was going to have this year that last year that I bought because of you talking about it.
And then now you have like a PC gaming device.
And now I have a gaming device,
on.
and I played Stray because of it. And not only that, but I also played some older really early games I never got to really go back to play, and it's a great emulator with that. And it's so accessible with things like that. And even like I was looking at Borderlands 3 because it's on sale this week, and I'm like, maybe I'll play that for $8 or whatever it is right now. I'm like, that's not bad content for that, but I can play it now on the PC because I'm like, it's I
played a bunch of
Borderlands. So it's impressive it's impressive that it looks like it shouldn't work and it works. Everything about it screams this is not going to work. 2-hour battery life. It's not even like great at all, and it works. So.
Well, like I said, like we all, I thought we all made fun of it when it came out. I made fun.
I did. I did.
But I could have sworn I said I was gonna hold judgment till I have it in my hands because pictures,
as we know, pictures. There's no idea.
Don't do justice.
You sold it to me on my bachelor party weekend. All right, Tony, what was your surprise?
Mine is actually it's mostly Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I'll just cut to the chase, but also honorary backseat, and I'll just mention too is Pokemon Legends Arceus. Just because I've been a Pokemon fan, not the biggest one, but I've been a Pokemon fan since the original Red Blue. Good stuff like that.
The classics.
But I played so many of them, and it even got to a point in the Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS era. It's I would play maybe one of them for the entire thing because they would release 2 or 3 sets, and I'd play one of them. And be like, I'm good. I got that experience for this.
And it almost became like a basketball game, like Mike was saying. It's
absolutely. Super formulaic, right? Yeah. Super formulaic. But both of these games really, took that core element of just catching Pokemon, but kind of turned it on its head. And in both ways, open world very similar. Open world just kind of go out and explore, and it makes it so fun. And Pokemon leads itself to that very well because the whole premise of the original was hey, you're on an adventure, go out, capture all these Pokemon, and become a great trainer and stuff like that. And this is the first game that lets you be okay, well, here you go. Go out, do whatever you want, man. Whatever you want in the order that you want. It's kind of like a mini Breath of the Wild moment. That's
cool,
especially when it comes to Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah.
The performance, obviously, whatever. We don't need to talk about it. They've already said it's going to get patched. They're going to work on improving the performance. But just when it comes down to the core gameplay loop, but also the story, I was actually really pleasantly surprised with just how much they changed it. And I'm not saying it's nothing along the lines of Last of Us or God of War or anything like that, but for an accessible, all-age Pokemon game, rather than just be hey, go beat 8 trainers, and then you challenge the Elite Four, and then you challenge a champion. Hey, you're champion. Good job. Which they've done for 25 years or whatever it is.
Yep.
Actually, we're hey, we're actually going to give you a pretty meaningful main story, a bunch of really good, well done side characters that most of the time they're super annoying. And this I'm okay, they all have their own backstories, and you actually each of them has their own branch of missions that you do before you can 100% complete the game. So I was really pleasantly surprised with that, and it actually reignited my enjoyment of the Pokemon game. So I'm really excited. And hoping they continue down that path with the next series.
Cool. All right, guys. It is on to our top 3 games of the year. So this is the fun part. Number 3, I will kick us off, guys. Number 3 for me. Where's my number 3? Oh, I believe it or not, my number 3 game of the year, and I think it deserves it myself. This could have been my surprise too. Was Shredder's Revenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good.
No. I know. I actually just replayed that with some friends last night all the way through.
It's a Turtles game. It's a classic arcade style Turtles game with replayability, with fun gameplay, with QOL stuff that's in it not from the old stuff. It's a little more keep playing it. It's still hard. I think we played on the hardest difficulty, didn't we, when we played that?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
So, but it was fun. Really fun to play with all of you guys during the stream, and then it was even fun to go back and play it at home on my own, which is cool. A staple of a good arcade game, a Turtles game. But it's fun to see that finally back in the limelight, and I feel like I played Streets of Rage 4. I played that too late to give it any consideration for of the years. I played the year after that, and like this game, I finally played it during the year, and I'm like, this deserves to be on my list because it was so good how they pulled that off, a classic style game. So I really enjoyed it, and the graphics. Oh, you can't. I mean, it's so good.
Graphics.
Yeah, can't go. It's so good. Yeah. It's so good.
It's a shining example of what I really want to see out of more licensed games going forward.
Sure, absolutely.
Especially from this particular developer. I mean, they nailed it out of the park with Streets of Rage 4 and then this. So, I want them to tackle another license. I'd love it if it's another beat 'em because it's not like we're dying.
How about give us another Simpsons though?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love to see
X-Men.
Another game and maybe innovate a little bit in this genre.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Yeah. I think they did a good job.
If I had a criticism of this is very close to being my 3, but in the end, I just there's just this feeling of I kind of wish there was a little more to it.
Yeah, I got you.
I know there's a lot to it for a beat 'em up, and it's decently long, and they have those sort of somewhat unnecessary RPG elements that you quickly like burn through, and then you're done with them. I just kind of wish there was a little more to it. I feel like by the end of Streets of Rage, they had a little more going on with it.
It did,
but
there was a lot more with characters.
More mechanics, a lot more nuance between the different characters.
So
once you start seeing people that play it and run it, you're just like, holy shit! Like I think last GDQ they had a Streets of 4 runner, and it was just mind blowing. Like they routed everything. Like this weapon, you pick up this, you throw it over there at this enemy to kill that guy. And it's like, holy shit! Like there's a lot of
everything's scripted out.
Yeah,
if you miss it, you're like,
start over.
Right.
Yeah. Crazy.
But,
all right.
No, that's cool. That was my honorable mention also.
Cool.
Yeah,
Mike,
right there.
Mike, what was your number 3?
This could have been it, and I keep waffling really because
he's still down to it.
Oh my god, he's gonna say it. I know he's gonna say it.
Go
ahead,
here's the thing.
Elden Ring.
What is it? It's gonna be Elden Ring.
Here's the thing. It's not Sonic Frontiers. Cowabunga Collection, Sonic Origins, played those, but those are collections.
That's good. Collection was good, but yeah.
They were good, but Collection's a better collection than Origins.
Good. Yeah.
And Gotham Knights, I may have had some fun minute to minute, but it's just not that good of a game overall and disappointing in the end. And I'm looking through, nothing stands out to me, and quality and quantity are not mutually exclusive to me. So the game I put the most hours in this year, which I do not like every minute I've played it, and I've stopped and started several times over this year, including right now, but what it does is undeniable, and I'm still playing it, and there's some sort of
year later
unmistakable quality that, even though it's not my favorite thing, and it is Elden Ring is my 3rd favorite game of the year.
There it is. You said it.
There it is. Yes.
Oh, that had to be painful.
128 hours.
You've put more hours into it than I have.
It's because I'm playing it so inefficiently. I waste time for full sessions.
I mean, look, I did research online for it too, because I got into it. I really wanted to know more about the game and what I can do to keep myself in it, because I was worried about the difficulty. So I understand that aspect, but no, I mean,
I'm sure we're going to talk about it multiple times later. So
yeah, we will.
I'm not going to say anything else about it. You guys will take care of it. So I'm done talking.
You can add it later. All right, Corey, what was your number 3?
My number 3 was Lost Ark. It was
nice.
Really good.
Nice. That's mine.
Wow, okay. Cool. There we go. Cool.
I know you put a lot more time in it than I did, Tony, but I loved what they were doing in the beginning. It was really cool. Class system, adding Diablo-style elements to a massive multiplayer community, putting that together, going on adventures with friends, and doing it on your own. Just a real good combination of of things there that we didn't see yet, which like kind of boggles my mind that we hadn't had a game like that and be as successful as it was. Unfortunately, I think they fumbled it a little bit, and I kind of fell off of it a little early on. But there was just so much there, and so much that I didn't even get to do, even though yeah, I was still kind of early on with my game. But yeah, I still really enjoyed my time with it, and all the classes and characters and stuff. They felt different, and were required to do certain events and things like that. You needed to party up, and you needed to invest in them. So a lot of stuff going on. Definitely would like to go back to it. Just haven't had the chance yet. But Tony, I know you if it was your number 3, then
yeah. You know, when it's funny because when looking over like the games I played this year, I don't have to like count off the top of my head, but I played a lot. And then I kind of glossed over the fact that Lost Ark came out last year because I kind of didn't consider it because it's like a pseudo MMO, but I was like, but I played so much of it, and I enjoyed so much of it that I was like, I have to put it somewhere. In number 3 it was a slot I wanted to give it, but just kind of like you said, it marries the greatest parts of like Diablo style, you know, character RPG action, you know, 2.5D, you know, camera angle, marries that perfectly with like pseudo MMO mechanics where it's like, hey, you have parties and you have raids, and you have bosses, you know, you have talent point, you have all this stuff, you know, you have a gear grind, whatnot, and it just makes it so interesting. Like, and I'm not playing it anymore right now. Unfortunately, I like you mentioned, I think between Amazon because they're publishing it in the West and who's the
Smilebit or Spit?
Smilebit, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Smilegate, yeah, I think it's something like that. Whatever. Between those two, I think they just tuned it a little too hard in terms of not like difficulty of playing the game, but in how much they need you to do on a daily basis. Just kills my motivation. So like the thing is, like, it's not just enough that you have one character in this game. They're like, hey, you need to make alternate characters so your alternate characters can do the exact same raids that your main character is doing, so they get the resources and materials to funnel to your main character so your main character can get to the next plateau of power level faster. So then your main character can then do that and then boost your alternate characters up to their level, and then you just repeat this. And it's like the first time you're like, okay, whatever, I could do that. But then the like percentage of being successful on like upgrading these characters gets so ridiculous, and it just like it starts in single digit percentages. You're just like, it's so disheartening being like, I'm about to waste like 1,000 golds worth of materials for a 10%, 9%, whatever, 8% chance, and I know it's gonna fail. So it's just like they want you to do so much hamster wheel, and I get it because it's a free to play game. But when it comes down to me personally, I just wish they were like, hey, pay us $15 a month and like we'll cut 90% of this grinding stuff down. That's the negative part. But the other part is just, it's so exciting. The story is really cool. The characters are just like flashy. It's got that like Korean pseudo anime storyline and stuff like that. And when they do these big battles and these big cutscenes against the bosses, it feels so good. And like you just feel like there's these like kind of like Avengers like moments in the story where you're like, oh shit, like I helped out this country and I helped out this country and I helped out this country, and they're showing up and like, you know, you're interacting with them alongside this battle. It just makes you feel really cool and like really immersed in the world that they created. And just other things that they've done with like sailing ships going around the world, all these islands you can visit.
It feels like a big
it's space. It's such a huge space. It really is. You could, and like I said, I spent so much time in this game, and I'm not even like a top percentage person. It's just kind of like,
and like you mentioned the raids and the bosses, like the bosses feel unique too. Like they're not just like, you know, bullet sponges and like,
right. No, it's not. Yeah. And that's my biggest criticism of what Diablo got, where it's just kind of like, okay, it's like, you know, just damage.
Just keep smacking him until he dies.
It's like you need to learn like the dance, where it's just like you do this and then this and then this happens. You might do this, then you need to do that. So yeah, it's a great game. Cool. I just wish they fix it this year. We'll see.
Yeah. All right, number 2 for me was a game I haven't finished yet. That's usually like requisite for my list, but I didn't finish it in time. Was Midnight Suns. I know where it slots in. It's number 2.
That high. Yeah, I actually started playing that.
I was gonna say, Mike. Cool. By the way, Mike, I was gonna say 100% you should play this game. You will enjoy it.
I did start. And what's funny is I enjoy the actual, you know, strategy gameplay. The the talking is very cringy. I almost can't deal with it.
Yeah. So I say later on it actually gets it gets better for you later on with that as you unlock more things to do more things
also
with people.
So much of it there's a lot in between.
Well, there's
when you actually do encounters.
Yeah, it's diplomatic matters, right? Diplomacy calls, but yeah, it's basically domestic affairs. Thank you, domestic affairs. Thank you. But yeah, so it's basically you have that aspect of there's two games in this game. There's the relationship part of the game where you go back to your academy thing, your and level up your character, improve your relationships, which then also unlocks new cards, combos, and then there's the actual game where you go on missions like XCOM, where you have a map and you have to fight these monsters and enemies, just regular enemies, and use the environments as well in those maps. And the card battler aspect of it is interesting because for me, I felt like the main character is very bland. He's a very generic character, and it reminded me of. I was trying to think of the game. There was an X-Men game that came out years ago where you played a very
the one that got delisted.
Yeah, what was the game you played? Like the generic character.
Marvel Heroes.
Yes, no, Marvel Heroes. An X-Men game.
No, it was X-Men Destiny.
Destiny. That was it. Yeah. So it had such promise, and this game dances dangerously close on occasions with us because your character is so generic. But
it's because it's always going to be that way when you have a customizable character mixed in with superheroes.
Yeah, but the best part about this game is the fact that that guy goes on the missions, and I change to one of the other two guys. The viewpoint from one of the other two guys that I usually control, because you're using cards to battle it. So you'd I can use my main character's cards, but I don't have to actually be on him. He can just do his moves while I'm focusing on Spider-Man and moving him around the map and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And it was such a great implementation of this into the XCOM universe. Is the best way to say it. It's not perfect. It's got such great potential for a sequel and what it can do if they have clearly undercooked. I think I've said this a few times on the podcast where graphically could look better. There's the aspect of the mansion part or the training facility where it could be better. But there's so much great. When it's good, it's good. When it's good, it's great. I'm sorry. When it's good, it's great. It's such great aspects of it that when I have those story moments happen with characters in that place, it's impactful and I enjoyed it. That's what I'm trying to say. You'll get to that point where you'll actually get interactions with characters. You're like, I kind of really enjoyed this actually. You don't feel like you're just doing it to unlock things, and you're just like, oh, I kind of got vested into having these characters and I want to use them on my next mission. And it makes you kind of do that and use more than just 3 characters the entire game too, which is great. Because you could just go through the whole game playing as Blade yourself and Spider-Man if you wanted to. But you don't. This game makes you want to use other characters, and it's really good. It's a really good game. It's not something again that I didn't know if I was going to even like this game because of Marvel's Avengers coming out and just flopping, and this kind of looking very much like that in terms of graphics. In my opinion, it looks very similar to that.
Tony Stark in this game is the most generic dude ever. With a mustache painted on.
To this day, I still can't stand that guy's voice. Whoever they got to voice act him, I can't take it. But other than that,
he's annoying.
Yeah, other than that, it's a very good game. So I strongly recommend it to people who were on the fence. Maybe if you're a Marvel fan or a strategy game fan, even not Marvel fans by themselves. Mike, you're a Marvel fan, so you don't have to be a strategy game fan to enjoy this game because the cards help, right? Does that help in terms of your enjoyment? You don't have to think about it too much yet.
Well, what helps is it seems pretty easy early on. I did up to heroic right away and failed my first thing.
Yeah, the thing is, the only thing I can say about this, and it's very common with XCOM style games, is the scale of the way the difficulty goes. It jumps. Okay. I found myself having some issues later in the game, midway through, right? Where I'm probably 3/4 through now. Midway through, I felt I was like, holy crap, I'm gonna fail this mission if I don't even know how I'm gonna pull this off right now. And you have to sit there and really think about it.
Did you up the difficulty when it prompted you? Or not?
No, I did not. He told me, and I'm like, because I knew the jump, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing as well as I should in this.
We'll see what happens to me then.
Because I wasn't acing the missions, and I'm like, okay, I'm not doing as well as I think I should be. So if I'm not doing that, I know there's a jump going to happen, and I'm going to screw this up. So I didn't want to fail the mission, so I left it on normal and just played it. But Very good game. Strongly recommend it. It's great. So
Nice.
yeah, Mike, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is probably the most slandered game of the year, in my opinion, but Horizon Forbidden West.
Oh, slandered, really?
I don't think it's not slandered. It's been recognized.
Yeah, I could say.
It just kind of came out right before Elden Ring, and then Elden Ring got all the praise.
You could say missed game of the year. Missed,
But no, everyone says it's super generic, and I really don't think it is. Only relative maybe to Elden Ring is it generic in the way that you see markers on the map, which is apparently not allowed anymore. But I don't really think this game is generic. I think it's still a very unique take on this post-apocalyptic world. That the enemies are stuff like you've never seen before, and the way they interact with each other in the world is just very interesting. And you have in this game you have a lot more options for weapons and your coils and all your different like stats and armor builds. It's almost overwhelming, and some of the economy I think is a little off in it, in the way that you can platinum the game like I have and still not have like unlocked the ability to fully upgrade a lot of your shit. But I think the story is pretty good in this game. Not quite as cohesive as the first game, but at the same time, the characters and the worlds and the villages, more specifically, seem way more alive. It's a big step forward in that regard as far as the sequel goes. And they did manage with the story to still give you another holy shit, is this true moment that the first game kind of had. And it's hard to follow up and do that similarly again. It sort of takes the story somewhere maybe some people won't like. I didn't mind it that much. I think we're already firmly in sci-fi when we're talking about this. So when it gets more sci-fi, I don't mind it that much. And it's just and obviously it's a graphically crazy game, and it's not, and it's varied enough as well too. The whole like, oh, this is generic thing, again, it gets to me because the first game had those tall necks where they were kind of like the moving climbing puzzles of the Ubisoft games. This game, each and every one of them is like its own unique puzzle or challenge, like almost in a way to like sort of make fun of the last game. Like everything is different for each one of them.
Okay, that's good to hear.
So there's a lot going on, and then they give you, there's a glut of content. There's even a little sort of like Gwent-esque minigame, and it just to do something else, you can get some credits or resources playing that here and there if you want to change it up. So
how's the AI?
I think it's the AI.
Would you say improved or the same?
Remember. It's so long ago that I played this at this point. This is what I did in the early February and March.
My biggest gripe from the first game was the fact that like the human AI in that game was so bad.
I don't think the whistle is a thing anymore the way it was.
I'm not even saying like whistling for the robots. I'm talking about like the actual people. I exploited like crazy with their bad AIs and make them basically run around in circles and then just kill them all one by one as they ran at me in a single file.
It was a bit better. I remember having the people are still not the threat of the machines by any means, but there's some villages where I had to think a little bit before I tackled.
Usually, from the first game, I would run through the village, which would get them all running after me, and then turn around and just start picking them off in one single file.
I don't think they'll stray from their village that far after a while.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't remember the specifics, but I found it just a very good improvement on most things, other than just the tightness of the first story from the sequel. So, and yeah, I platinumed it. I really liked it. This is the second amount of hours I put into any game this year.
All right. Corey.
My number 2 is Wonderlands, or Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Okay.
I should say.
I was like, what game is this? Okay, go on. Yeah.
So this game is the Borderlands. Basically, Tiny Tina had a DLC in Borderlands 2 that was one of the most popular ones, and it took a fantasy take on the Borderlands formula, which we know is a kind of post-apocalyptic world. And so they do that and kind of flesh down to a bigger game here and make it its own thing. And they do a really good job of taking that fantasy world and bringing in guns and bow and arrows, obviously, and melee weapons, and then using spells instead of grenades and things like that. And they create a really good looter shooter in a fantasy style game and put in all fantasy tropes that you'd want in the Borderlands style humor. And so for me, it was exactly what I was hoping for and what I was looking for in a Tiny Tina's fantasy style Borderlands game. And then at the heart of it, I thought the story was very, very well done too, because it is still Tiny Tina dealing with a loss in her and how she handles that and what the characters, how they interact with that. So like there was some touching moments in the game that were more impactful than you'd expect in a kind of action-packed run and gun type of game. So this is really well done, and I think the end game it's an interesting take. It's different than what you got in Borderlands. So they had like these trials that you would do, basically kind of like a roguelike type thing where you would try to do this run and see how far you can get, and then if you can beat it, you'll get stuff to go to the next one, and then if you can do that, you can then risk more and then keep risking and risking to see if you can get further and further, and then cash in to get better rewards at the end. And I thought that was a good change up from what end game stuff has been in the past with the Borderlands games.
Cool.
The only gripe I have is the DLC they did was essentially nothing. They charge you $30 for basically a level, and it was like, wow, that's 10 minutes of content.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like the first DLC was literally like 10 minutes of content.
Oof.
It was pretty ridiculous.
Oh my god, I'm surprised I haven't heard like a backlash on this.
How did that
not? There was, in the community, it was huge backlash.
Okay, I guess I just like on Twitter or Reddit where it was like,
sure, it was awful.
Did they not agree to work on Alien again for Sega and get some more money?
So like the thing I think is like this was like they had plans for DLC, I think, for this game, and they just put it into the game because it wasn't fleshed out enough, and so then they had nothing for the actual season pass. And I think that's what the problem was. They just had to like scramble and do something real quick, and it was really disappointing. And everybody, like, they killed the game. They killed this game because the DLC was so trash. Like, this game could have been something that people played all year, and it just died.
Is the DLC just like done, or like?
Yeah, they did 4 DLC packs, and they were all shit. Like
all shit. Like I can sort of understand like maybe the first or second.
Okay, one of them was okay, but like it doesn't make up for the fact that the rest were terrible. Like the first thing they do is like open up a section which is already there. It's like those whole like Capcom things, unfortunately, where it's like, oh, the DLC's on the disc, but no, it's like one of those type of deals where it's like, oh, this space I couldn't go to before, now it's open and unlocked, and you can go to it and you can run through like a level, and then there's a boss at the end, and that's the DLC and a couple new weapons.
And they charged half the price of the fucking game.
Yeah, well, it's for like the season pass, yeah.
Like I can understand if it was maybe like a drastically reduced price, like maybe like $15, for something like that. But like,
Yep.
30?
That's the thing, is it puts a sour taste in my mouth. And that's the reason it's not my number one game, is because of that. Because I loved everything that they gave you in the beginning. It's just like, all right, ready for DLC, and like coming off of all the great DLCs that they're known for. Like, they are known for having like amazing DLC. Like, this is based off of one of the best DLCs that the games have offered before. And yet,
yeah. That makes sense.
They just screw it up. So that was my number 2, though. Still, Borderlands universe, can't knock it. It's my favorite. So I mean, might as well go Tony if you have questions.
Yeah, did they leave it open? Like, will this lead into like what you think like is a Borderlands 4, or like do you think this is?
No. This is a separate thing. Like, this happens before Borderlands 3. So because this is Tiny Tina still dealing with the loss of Roland.
Gotcha. Okay, that's interesting. So I guess
because like Roland,
even a sequel,
the voice actor for Roland is narrating some of the stuff in this game.
Oh, okay, interesting. Man, that's a shame, because I remember talking with you about it when it first came out, and you're really happy. And like, that's so bad when like the DLC is just, it kills you.
Yeah. That's why I was like, I would still be playing this game if the DLC was on the level of Borderlands 3, even
3, not 2. Not 2. 2 is the
Who's the pinnacle? Like, you're not getting better than 2.
Sorry about that.
But anyway,
all right, Tony.
So for me, number 2 was going to be Elden Ring, but I think we're about to talk about it. So
is number 2 is Elden Ring for you? It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that was my game of the year. clearly, and I mean, big shock here. I think I've said it all year during every podcast. There's nothing that can beat that, and I mean, for me, I didn't play 17 games this year. I only played a handful, and I think because the time investment for me in this was like so much. It wasn't even that much. It was,
it's the feeling you get, Jim, when you accomplish something with your own two hands.
Yeah, it
was, you did this. You've done this thing.
I mean, listen, once you become the Elden Lord, I mean, there's nothing more. It's just kind of...
There's a lot of stuff you skipped that you could go and do there.
But yes, I don't know. This game was absolutely amazing, and the only thing I do wish is that... I do wish, Mike, that there were some more map location things. I know it's not the style for this game genre, but that's something I would love to see come into the aspect of the next game, rather than have to monitor it.
Yeah, I just wish, for me...
Follow the thing on the map. What was our little...
Yeah, the thing that looks like an arrow? The arrow-looking thing?
The arrow-looking
No, but no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, this game is so huge.
You wanted map markers for
this game is so huge. There's so much to do in this game that just even a quest marker log thing would have been great.
That would have helped for sure.
But I know that's against this game, and I'm just I know.
No.
I might have done 2 quests, and I'm in the end game, maybe completed 2 quests because I just had no idea what to do with any of these people.
I guarantee you've completed more. You just don't know it because you probably killed NPCs or bosses.
Well, I don't know, but
they're not telling you, so how would you know?
Yeah, it's not like you beat this quest and you get XP and gold and stuff. It's not like that. It's oh, this is locked out, or I get something. Some of the times it's you literally go back to a location and it's just an item is there because whatever NPC that gave it to you is dead, or they're yeah, I'm moving on. And then they drop it and stuff like that. It's
no, I thought that this world was great to explore. It was very punishing, but also very fun.
The quantity of the different ways to play the game, the different weapons, and the different things to find is what I mean. Where I didn't love it every second, but there's just so much to find and do that it's almost unprecedented.
Yeah, I mean, I felt every time I felt comfortable in the world, and I'm I'm getting good, and then I would run into a massive wall, either that be in the wild world, the open world, or an actual boss battle. So there was times near the end of the game where I didn't think I'm going to continue because there's a very punishing boss battle that I was not spec'd for, and I was trying to change my specs and trying to do all this stuff that wasn't in my own wheelhouse. And finally I decided to just embrace what I was, but beat him without it. And I did. And so you could say it's Melina? Melina, thank you. Melina was a battle that I kind of cheesed at the end there. It was supposed to be the hardest battle, but I'm she can take bleed, so I can just kill her whenever I wanted to. Bleed. But that boss didn't take bleed, and I had to beat him with myself with my ability.
Is this the one that I'm facing now?
Yes, and
he bleeds.
He doesn't have bleed pop.
Yes, he does.
Well, then it's not that one. It's the one after that one. So, I had to beat him straight up, and I did, and I was very proud of myself to be a late boss game like that. And I beat him, so it was great.
Proud of you, Jim. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you guys for playing this game because. I mean, I've been, and I'll go because this is my number 2. Yeah. I love the From Software games, the Soulsborne, Sekiro, whatever you call it. Once I gave it a try, I was totally sucked in, and I really hope the one that did it for me was Bloodborne. I hope eventually we get a PC port because I think that's probably the best example of what people can experience, but it's PlayStation exclusive. So anyway, Elden Ring, it just. It does such good things. And I guess for me personally, I expected this game to be this good.
Yeah.
Going from I'm looking forward to this game. I'm pretty sure it was, number 2 next to Zelda.
Corey had it way up there. You had it way up there in your anticipated, didn't you, Corey?
I don't remember.
I thought you did.
I might have. Probably.
Go on, Tony.
But, it's just you have the classic, Bloodborne, Soulsborne gameplay, but we're applying it to an open world, and ever since they revealed the gameplay, it's they're aping the Breath of the Wild experience, where it's huge open world. You can go in any direction you want. You can, face the bosses in any order that you want and stuff like that. And it's just like, okay, that's an easy sell. You're combining two of my favorite gameplay types, and you're marring it into this awesome, mishmash and stuff like that. And it really didn't lose much of that identity. I can make some small gripes about, like, I think overall I prefer the linear style where it's like level by level because it's easier to gate certain things. Because there were times where I'm like, oh, a new region. I never meant to, go down here. But I'm so over leveled at this point, I'm just like two-shotting bosses. Like, oh, you probably would have been hard if I fought you in the first 3 hours of the game, but I'm fighting you in hour 50, so you're a chump and stuff like that. Whereas, you're not going to really get that in the classic Soulsborne experience. But I mean, from the graphics, from the art design, because like I won't say like it's the graphically most impressive game. That's probably Horizon this year, I would say, out of what I've seen online and stuff like that. But from art direction, you see like the first time you see that Elden tree, it's just like gorgeous. Like you just see the brilliant golden, leaves hanging off this tree in the distance, and you're just like, it's literally just like radiating across the land.
You could also argue that like boss design is incredible in this game.
Well, that's what it is, and all these things I expected. So like it was more like, oh, what are they throwing at me this time? It's like, okay, cool. You got like a the snake, gigantic boss, Millennia, stuff like that. It was just amazing. But I expect these things. But from the technical aspect, I can absolutely see this as like the overall game of the year, 100%. I mean, it's unusual that we see these games so early in the year. It's like, I mean, what's coming out? What is really coming out? And this game just refined the Soulsborne experience. I think not watered down, but made it more palpable to a wider audience. And just seeing the public like reception to it. I mean, it was talked about for the entire year, like from articles, Reddit, Twitch streams, YouTube videos and stuff like that, and just being immersed into like what I would consider like this is a gamer's game, right? Like I know you guys critique like the story and how they deliver it a little bit, but like I love that. I personally love that with these games because
I like it a little better map, but
I'm tired of like honestly, dude, I'm so tired.
I'm not saying cutscenes. I'm not so saying tired of cutscenes. At all.
What are you saying?
I'm saying it needs to just be more, not that arrow-looking thingy. I think it needs to be more directional in terms of its story. More. I mean, instead of just pick up and read, I think you should have a little more direction in the story.
Well, you should play Sekiro again.
Yeah, maybe I should.
For me, that's the reason why I did. Part of I didn't feel motivated as my character, or knowing any of these other characters to like do anything.
Yeah, because you just couldn't find the story. You couldn't find the story.
It's just
it's a role playing game though. Like it's a role playing game. But you're supposed to be playing your own character.
But Mike couldn't find the story. That's the thing that happens in this kind of game. You get it. I get that 100%. You just couldn't find the game. He couldn't find it. It happens.
I mean, it's to you. I'm just saying. I love that this style game exists because every other thing, and I've said it before, the biggest thing is, especially from the Sony. I don't mean to critique it. It's like sad dad simulator where it's like, oh man, something's happening, oh no, gotta like involve these feelings of parental relations and stuff like that. It's like I can't, and that's why like I didn't play any of the Sony games this year in addition to having a PS5.
But there's something to say about those games compared to this game because like
sure, but how many of those game experience are you getting per year, Jim? That's what I'm saying.
But I know what you're saying. I'm just telling you that your experience of Elden Ring, because it's an open world game, I may never experience what you experienced. The way this open world works.
And I love it. That's the beauty of it. That was the beauty of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
But if you don't get some of those amazing moments, you could go through the game and not get some of those amazing. So it's not going to hook you. So I do understand that.
What are you saying from the story experiences? Like each of the regions, you have these bosses, you have the characters.
Oh, it's fantastic. Myself, but if you're not like following enough of the story to understand what's going on, because when you do it, you're done. Like when they're dead, they're dead.
I don't necessarily even feel like all these powerful people or shard bearers or whatever, they're somewhat related, they have their own relationships, and I just couldn't care. I don't care.
The story,
I don't care about their relationships.
You don't have to care about them, but like I'm just saying, like this is supposed to be about your character having that adventure.
Yeah, my character, I don't understand why he's just listening to everyone tell him to do something,
But you don't have to do it. You can literally kill any NPC that gives you a quest in this game. You're like, no, fuck you, I'm not doing that. And you just kill them.
Well,
But that's your choice, and you chose not to do it, and then you're complaining. Well,
the thing I love about Elden Ring, and I've never even played this game, is that, and all the Souls games for me, is just like the developers and the designers of these games, like, this is the game you're getting. There is no difficulty settings. There are no handheld moments here. You're gonna get to get in this game and have the experience that you're gonna have, and every individual's gonna get that experience for themselves. And like you're saying, that's not for everybody. But that's what's amazing, is that this game is not for everybody. And these Souls and the Born Sekiro games, they're not for everybody. But who they are for, it's like 10 out of 10 for them.
And I will say, like, the biggest
you
story,
have your Gods of Wars and your Horizons out there, and your Last of Us.
Right, exactly. And you get 3 to 4 of those every year, and you only get maybe one type of game that's Elden Ring every couple of years. And what I'll say about this, like, I'll give you an example. Did you guys hear about the Let Me Solo Her guy or no?
No.
Yes, I know about him.
Okay, so like that is one of the greatest moments that came out of last year, where this dude was breaking his face trying to fight Melina here in the fight, and was just so bad at her. He practiced and practiced and practiced until he got good and beat her, and then was like, you know what? I don't want other people to experience what I experienced with this boss, and would just queue into other people's lobbies and be like, "Oh, you're trying to fight Lightning here? I'll solo her. Stay back." And he's like fucking naked with a katana and like a stupid pot on his head. He's just rolling, dodging flawlessly, and like beating this boss, like absolutely mastering this boss. And you're just like, holy shit! Like, this guy did something that is like so crazy. The developers even recognized it. They sent him like a package. You're like, damn, you are a true Elden Lord of this game for doing what, we didn't think anybody would be able to do that quickly and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that is a story that came out of this game. It's not intentional. It's just, that is an experience somebody had.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get that out of those games.
All right. Yeah. All right. Mike, what would be your game of the year?
God of War Ragnarok.
No, not surprised. I understand. Yeah. Heard it's amazing. Heard it's amazing.
To me, well, this game, it left me wanting more. I played only 75 or so hours of this, and I platinumed it as well. And truthfully, if I have a criticism against it, it's that there's not more to do once you're done with it. There will be a new game plus eventually later this year, but early on, and it also, I think it might have helped, I replayed the previous game right before this. Pretty early on in this game, you get the sense that the writers of this game, like, you kind of trust them. It's a weird feeling. You trust them to not be predictable, but also not to just go against, like, character for the sake of shock. You feel like everything feels genuine that happens. And yeah, early on, it just gives you this sense that, like, you can trust where the story's going, that it'll be surprising. It won't be exactly what you expect, but it also won't just be like empty shock value. And you get that feeling early on, and then you also, as you go in and get, it feels very similar to the first game mechanically, but then as you start to get more abilities, and then you see certain things happen that, like, it's like, oh, you can, I think people know this by now, so I will do a small spoiler. You spend time actually playing as Atreus for pretty big stretches of this game, and it's totally different moveset. You also have a couple different companion characters that come in there as well too, and totally new stuff happens there as well. And you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't even expect that. And then by the end of the game, it's just, there's so much. It's just fun, the gameplay. You just want to find everything and fight everything you can. And everything has a place in the story as well. Like, they'll talk, everything has its context. And there's this whole section of this game that's optional, which is unlike the first game pretty much, where there's a whole area that's kind of more of an open area where you can choose to go there, or you could just continue on with the main story. But everything you do in this new area, it's pretty puzzle heavy, and they have respawning enemies. Everything there is for character growth. You can get more backstory on characters as you unlock more of the area and play through it, and find your way to certain bosses, do other bosses and stuff. And so it's just a combination of all of the things that you have, the writing, the gameplay, and just the sense of, growth with your character and the characters on the screen, and just being an interesting sort of take on this mythology, these themes of fatherhood, but also of like destiny and fate, and like, what's predetermined and why would it be predetermined, and what do you want to know everything about, the world? Is it worth it for certain things, certain sacrifices? So it was just fun time, and the story won't go the way you think it goes completely. I'm sure you have all your preconceived notions, but yeah, I platinumed it, and I kind of wish there was more to fight in the game at this point, because the abilities you get are very fun, and even the armors, which really you don't need to pay too much attention to until you fight some of the harder end game bosses, and some of which are ridiculously hard, like right up there with stuff in Elden Ring. That some of the end game bosses, but it was just like the complete experience for me, just a combination of being an interesting world, interesting characters, interesting story, and good gameplay that was varied enough and expanding as you go deeper into it in ways that sometimes you don't even expect. So I loved it.
Awesome. Yeah. Game of the year for a lot of people. It was up against Elden Ring actually in the Game Awards. So yeah.
It was Stray, but whatever.
It was Stray. Made a different part of our list though. Corey, what was your game?
Yeah. No, I mean, I wish I played God of War, because I think that would probably be my game of the year if I got to play it. I was just looking back, as you mentioned, like some I anticipated. God of War and Horizon were my top two, and I didn't play either of those. So I'm very disappointed in myself for not doing that. But so for my number one game, and this is, I know I'm gonna get some groans for this one, but my number one this 2022 is Destiny: The Witch Queen. That blew me away with how great they did bringing this game back for me, and like getting me back into the game, and going through and bringing characters back and bosses back, and just kind of taking it back to its roots a little bit. And Destiny's has so many ups and downs in the history, and like right now I'm on a down. I'm not playing the game at all, but the Witch Queen experience and the storyline they did for that was just so fantastic. I thought that it was compelling. It drove the story. The story drove you forward, and it got people back together that I got to play with again for a little bit, and you can go through that. But at the end, I soloed the entire part at the end, and
I remember you talking about that actually.
Super fun experience doing that. And like I said, the boss battles were really great, and just getting back into that world was a lot of fun. And then of course they screwed up, and again, but for the experience that the Witch Queen gave me, and for the Destiny, obviously with all its ups and downs that it had, the Witch Queen was just such a great storyline and compelling. It's just so hard to get into now. Like I don't know if I could do that, because
I remember talking to you about it, and I was just like, the new player experience just seems really awful in terms of like,
it's
hey,
so much.
I want to pick up Destiny 2, and it's like, don't even
and
bother.
that's the thing, is like so much of this story was based off of having gone through everything else that you've gone through.
Right.
And if you didn't go through that, like
you're
you
not
would
gonna have
just
the same
not
experience.
you're not gonna appreciate all the stuff they put into this, because now they're giving light to the other character, the enemies.
The Forspoken or whatever they were, right?
Not the Forspoken.
I have no idea.
No, so now like you're working with the Fallen, kind of.
The Fallen, that's what it was. Yes, yeah.
Yes, the I forget what their other name's called. And yeah, so then like the light is going, and you're getting the darkness. So like you're getting darkness powers, and then your enemies are getting light powers. So they have ghosts now and stuff, and so like you're killing ghosts and things. And so yeah, it's just really neat. But going back, and there's a sequence where you get to see a kind of a dragon creature that comes out from a past DLC, and it was just a really cool experience.
Did they bring Peter Dinklage back?
Well, I mean,
from a long time ago.
No, I know. They replaced.
Joking.
Yeah, I'm joking. But,
I was
because he said they brought back a lot. So I was
this is like a decade. I mean, did they bring him back? Like, I would be surprised.
No.
I don't think he enjoyed that.
No, he didn't. You could hear he didn't. That was the thing. Like he just didn't want. He was
that wizard went to the moon.
Yeah, it was from the
came from the moon.
Came from. Sorry.
So yeah, that's my number one for this year. Cool. I will just want to say I have not played enough of Xenoblade yet, but I am going through it, and that's a great game. So I want to shout that out. I don't know if Tony might mention it.
Probably
in the future.
Tony actually worked on for my number one, just because like you with Destiny, and the Borderlands. I love the Xenoblade universe. It's one of the few things that is so rare. Especially coming from like over a decade now. We have 3.5 games, whatever you want to call it. And this one really was like the culmination of everything that not only the game series itself has built up to, but like I would honestly say the company Monolith Soft, which struggled, from the outlet with finding their audience, right? So just as some backstory, they started off with Squaresoft back in the day, releasing Xenogears. And they had a whole plan for like a multi-game series. Mm-hmm. And Square was just like, hey, sorry, we don't want another one. And it's like, okay, like that sucks because, obviously we had plans for sequels and, characters develop, but that's life, that's all they got. And then they go to Bandai Namco and they develop the Xenosaga games, and pretty much the same thing. They managed to get 3 games out, but they're like, oh, we still had more to do. And Bandai was like, we're sorry. And then Nintendo acquired them and they're like, hey, what do you guys want to do? What's your specialty? Like, obviously it's the RPGs. And they're like, all right, well, let's do one of these again. And they're like, okay. And I remember campaigning so hard for that first one on the Wii. And I'm pretty sure I talked about it on this podcast with Operation Rainfall, where they just had this excellently reviewed game over in Japan that just, they're like, no, we don't have any plans to release this outside in America. And it's just mind-boggling because the voice cast was done in English, British English. And coming from the fact that like they didn't even want to release this game. It was a limited GameStop release, GameStop exclusive release on the Wii, to the point that like now we're, again, 3.5, 4 games into it, multi-million selling series. And it's just like that, it makes me happy because we have so many closures with studios these days where it's just like one flop just kills the studio. And we could look at like, Eidos, Montreal, Crystal Dynamics. Like, it's just sad because one flop can absolutely kill you. But anyway, we're speaking to the game itself. Xenoblade 3, it just builds upon like what Xenoblade 2 did in terms of like just upping the action, upping the battle complexity in terms of like RPG mechanics. Whereas like I feel like a lot of modern even JRPGs focus more on the action aspect of it. Like Final Fantasy 15 is like half an action slasher with Noctis like zipping around the battlefield after throwing his sword and stuff like that. You have the Tales of games. Final Fantasy 16 itself is almost Devil May Cry. They hired the director from Devil May Cry 5 to come do that. Whereas like this, they're leaning into that RPG deeply, hugely complex system of like, hey, this is how you do like an elemental system. This is how you do a chain attack. And I remember, Jim, when you played the second one, you're like, I'm like X hours in and you're still getting tutorials. And again, personally, I love it because we don't get to see that anymore. It's really kind of like these days, it's like, hey, you get cool flashy moves and, higher DPS attacks and stuff like that. Whereas this is like, it's asking you to really master the systems that they put in place of you and they teach you throughout the game and stuff like that. And the story is just so good and it really builds upon the first two. Not to the point where like you need to know the first two, but if you do, it just enhances the experience where you have these callbacks from both of the games, and even like music and locations where they'll take tracks and just be like they put a riff on it. Whereas like, for example, there's an endgame area from the first game that's an intro area in this game, and because of where it takes place, that endgame zone like had this dreary, dark, like foreboding music. But because it's like an intro area in this game, it has like this lighthearted melody to it. And just listening to both and you're like, wow, that's a stark contrast. But anyway, the cast itself is just amazing. And the story goes to places. I won't spoil it because honestly, it's one of those things that are like,
I'm going through it now.
Anybody. I don't want to root for anybody. But there are points in the story which like honestly just made me cry. Like I was like, I had like, I think maybe like Mass Effect 2 was the last time like a game really did where I'm like, oh shit. Where it's like I had to like pause the game and be like, I need to get up and just kind of like get my feelings together and just think about what just happened on screen and stuff like that with the characters. And it's just comes to a place where you just don't see things coming, and it's just like, even like think about it now, it's like I'm like, damn, kind of like choking up a little bit, where it's just it leaves you in a vulnerable spot, you know. And it's not like just the tropey stuff where it's like somebody dies or like, you know, whatever stuff like that. It's just really about like the emotions and the things that happen in the world, because the game really invites you to like really get immersed in it and be like, hey, I'm committed to not just my characters but like the world.
It was you just made, I don't even know how you just made me flash back to Wing Commander 3, but you just made me do that. Hobbs
it is.
What's that?
Nothing. It's funny when you mention that, because I will say, like, the saddest I got all year playing a game like that, was Pentiment. But again, I didn't like it overall. But that does stick with me.
Yeah.
Last time I had that happen in a game was like Wing Commander 3 with like my guy Hobbs, when he betrays you. You're like, he's flying away, and you're like, I don't want to kill. I don't even want to shoot you now, man. I don't. I have to. I have to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's these moments I like just live it. And like the thing is, I remember specifically after like going through these parts, I was like, was I just in the moment? Was like I was just so engrossed in the game that like maybe now like I'm gonna rewatch it and it's gonna have the same effect. So I click out like on a YouTube like let's play video, and like I'm like getting to the part where like I know it's gonna happen, so I'm like already kind of like choking up a little bit, and then the streamer, the player is like, what's going on? And they react, and then their reaction gets me to react even more. I'm like, okay, yeah, like this is a really good like moment and stuff like that. I'm just like fighting back tears again, stuff like that. But
that's awesome.
Just awesome.
I'm more excited to get into it more.
Yeah.
There is one thing that I will say that kind of like annoyed me a little bit, is that there's like a part where they're voting for something and they totally just forget about the
the no bond.
Yeah, the no bond.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's 4 against 2. Like, is it though?
Is it? Is it?
Yeah.
But anyway, I just thought it was funny. Cool. Like, yeah, they're just kind of invisible in this entire thing.
Yeah, they don't have the same rights that the human characters do.
Right.
But
yeah, that's awesome. No, I've been really enjoying it so far.
Cool. All right.
So,
all right.
exciting.
And that's the end of the Game of the Year edition, guys. Those are our
favorites.
Made
every spot.
Yeah,
3, 2, and 1.
That is all of our favorites.
And off the list.
Disappointing.
And I want to say, I think 2022 was a really good year for games. I know at the beginning of the year, there were some people in this podcast who are like, I don't know about this.
It was empty.
I think it turned out to be a very good year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this coming year. I really am. Our anticipated episode's coming up soon as well, folks. So stay tuned for that. I have a lot of anticipated games.
On my last year that didn't make it out, so hopefully
there's a Microsoft game on my list. But will it come out this year? I don't know. But you know,
that's the problem, right?
Yeah. But for now, that's gonna wrap up this episode. Next week is our TV shows of the year. That we'll start off with that next week. We are streaming live on Twitch starting Tuesday nights, so please join us live for that episode. We do the Gamecast after that. If you miss it, YouTube the following day. Subscribe to both channels so you know what happens when we're getting it. That's gonna wrap it up though for tonight, folks. We are done. We'll see you. We're out.